Welcome to the club. Hello everyone, long time no see. Today we are going to finally discuss the final part about the book To Kill a Mockingbird, and we are going as usual to share a summary, our vocabulary from this part, and also add some additional thoughts on the book overall, and then some additional information also is going to appear. Let's start with a summary, and I'm going to begin. Scout attends her aunt's missionary circle meeting while she learns about the Mruna people in Africa. The ladies discuss their charitable work while unknowingly displaying prejudice and hypocrisy. Scout overhears their conversation and gains insight into the complexities of social attitudes and behaviors. Meanwhile, Bob Ewell's resentment toward Atticus intensifies as he seeks revenge for his embarrassment during Tom Robinson's trial. The tension in Maycomb rises as Atticus receives threats and the town becomes increasingly hostile.
The ladies of Maycomb decide to organize a Halloween pageant. Scout gets the role over Ham. Jim agrees to take Scout and bring her home. On the way to the pageant, Cecil Jacobs frightens Jem and Scout. When they go home after the pageant, Jem hears something unusual. Scout hears Jim scream and someone attacks her. Scout sees a strange man carrying Jim to their front door. Aunt Alexandra tells Scout that Jim's unconscious and his arm is broken. Sheriff Tate announces that he found Bob Ewell dead under the tree where the children were attacked. The sheriff notices knife marks on Scout's costume. Bob Ewell had intended to kill her and Jim. The man who saved Scout's and Jim's lives is Boo Radley, and Atticus begins defending Jim, insisting that killing Bob Ewell was clearly self-defense. Sheriff Tate corrects Atticus, saying that Bob Ewell fell on his own knife. Atticus realizes that Boo Radley killed Ewell and Tate is trying to protect Boo. Boo sees Jim one more time and then asks Scout to take him home. She returns to Jim's room and Atticus reads aloud to her until she falls asleep. Atticus goes to Jim's room where he spends the night.
So we are finally at the very end of this nice book. What do you think about the ending part?
Well, I love the story and I love the last part. I love the scene with Boo because it was really heartwarming and touching, and the way it was described, like he treated the children as his children, because there was like the abstract that he was following them, he was looking at them like they were growing, his kids were growing in front of him and something like that. And yes, it was really touching, but of course the scene with attacking the children was not so nice, and but I read it for the third time. That's why I knew that everything would be okay, so it wasn't that hard for me.
Okay, well, frankly speaking, when I was reading the last part, I was wondering what was going to happen, because before the trial there was a big piece where everything was described that was connected with the town's life and the characters, and I thought that the book is going to end at the end of the trial and on Tom Robinson's death, but still there were some more events that I didn't remember. So when I was reading, I was of course shocked by the situation that is described there, that Bob Ewell decided to take revenge on the children. It seems like barbarian to me, because if you are displeased with the actions of a person, you should deal and solve all your problems with him. not with his family, with the members of his family, and especially with the children. Of course, we all understood that Bob Ewell is kind of like trash, but here we are like sure for 100% about it. While I was reading the book, it seemed to me that Atticus didn't understand that it was Boo who killed Bob Ewell. When you were reading the summary, you said that he understood. You think he understood?
I think yes. So I do not know, and I think that it's not written in the book that way. So yes, probably we do not know exactly, but I think that both Tate and he understood.
I'm sure that Tate understood, but again, only because Atticus was talking about that it was Jem and his self-defense and all that stuff. And it seemed that Tate kind of like convinced not to do anything with that. And he didn't try to show that, for example, it was in fact Boo, and that it's better not to tell anyone about him because it is going to be very difficult for him to go through anything connected with trials or something like that. And again, about the situation with Scout, it's kind of like a little bit sad that in fact only Scout got to meet Boo Radley like that in person, because all of them, Jem and Deal, all of them also really wanted to meet Boo, but it was only Scout who got to meet him. And if I'm not mistaken, it was also mentioned that it was the only meeting, and
I think so.
After that no one saw Boo. And also, yes, I was interested how the book would end, on what scene. Of course, we all know that Atticus is a perfect father, a perfect person, but still every time some situation happens and every time I read how Atticus acts in this situation, I got like more warmer and warmer toward his character, even though I like him very much. And when you read that something bad happened with his child and he stays up all night and sits with him, and what was the last phrase? Something like yes, he would be there all night and he would be there with Jem, waked up in the morning. I think it's very important for the children to feel safe because your parent is there for you whenever and whatever happens to you. So I think when Jem is going to be awake and he sees his father, he's going also to feel safe, to feel protected, to feel loved, needed, and I think it's precious. Okay, so anything else to add about this part?
Okay, so I can say something on the book overall.
Okay.
I think I just love this book, and you heard it like a million times. But I love this book because you can find so many situations that are typical for our daily life, like it's not something special. You can think about a lot of things, like a lot of aspects of our life, because the book touches different topics, like relationship between children and parents, discrimination, like racial discriminations. Well, I can't say that it's discrimination, but some attitude based on prejudice about women and something like that. Also, the way we treat people who are strange, who we consider to be strange or reclusive, like Boo Radley. And a lot of aspects. Some relationship not only between children and parents, but children and children, brothers and sisters, just relatives. The way people treat different social groups and so on. So there are so many nice moments in this book.
I completely agree with you, and the only thing that I would like to add is that I am amazed by how all of these ideas are in fact only in this small, like kind of like this thin book. So I think maybe we should now discuss vocabulary, and
Okay.
after that add something else. Yes.
Yeah.
Will you start?
Okay. So the first phrase that I liked was someone walked over my grave. If someone walked over your grave, you've got sudden inexplicable shivers. And in the text it was Aunt Alexandra. Aunt Alexandra said she just had to get to bed early. She'd been decorating the stage all afternoon and was worn out. She stopped short in the middle of her sentence. She closed her mouth, then opened it to say something, but no words came. "What's the matter, Auntie?" I asked. "Oh, nothing, nothing," she said. "Somebody just walked over my grave." And this was before this pageant. That's why it was a really nice phrase.
To the point.
Yes.
My first phrase is bob for apples, which means try to catch floating or hanging apples with one's mouth alone as a game. I think everyone saw in this or that movie, for example, that it's kind of a popular game in America, I think. The sentence is, "I wanted to bob for apples, but Cecil said it wasn't sanitary."
This is in fact Halloween tradition, and yeah, so it is very popular in the United States, but I have never tried it because I had a chance like to organize it for my students when we had Halloween parties, but again, I do not think that it's sanitary.
Yeah.
Okay, the next phrase is take no leap not to listen to someone. After consulting a tree to ascertain from its lichen which way was south and taking no leap from the subordinates who ventured to correct him, Colonel Macomb set out on a purposeful journey to rout the enemy and entangled his troops so far northwest in the forest primeval that they were eventually rescued by settlers moving inland.
Okay, my next phrase is connive at. And there are two meanings. The first one is to allow something bad to happen although you know about it. And the second is if you say that someone connives at something or connives in something, you are critical of them because they allow or help it to happen even though they know that it is wrong and that they ought to prevent it. And the situation is, heck, Atticus's back was turned. If this thing shushed up, it'll be a simple denial to Jem of the way I've tried to raise him. Sometimes I think I'm a total failure as a parent, but I'm all they've got. Before Jem looks at anyone else, he looks at me. And I've tried to live so I can look squarely back at him. If I connived at something like this, frankly, I couldn't meet his eye, and the day I can do that, I'll know I've lost him. I don't want to lose him and Scout because they're all I've got.
Okay, the next phrase is to pay a mint. It means to pay an extremely large amount of money. Best way to clear the air is to have it all out in the open. Let the county come and bring sandwiches. I don't want him growing up with a whisper about him. I don't want anybody saying Jim Finch, his daddy paid a mint to get him out of that.
And my last is going to be a word, hearse. It is a large car that carries the coffin at a funeral. The sentence is, Ken ought to be there with the hearse by now, doctor. Night.
The next phrase, rule the roost. It means to have control and authority over the people there. Aunt Alexandra was thriving. Miss Moody must have silenced the whole missionary society at one blow, for Auntie again ruled that roost.
So I think we also can discuss some additional things I would like to share with you all and with you too. that yesterday I decided to watch a movie, To Kill a Mockingbird. It was like from 1962, if I'm not mistaken, with Gregory Peck as Atticus, and Gregory Peck got an Oscar for playing Atticus in this movie. The movie was very difficult to watch for me. In the first place, of course, it was very difficult for me to watch because I was very tired yesterday, but still I tried my best to refresh my memory about the book and what happened there. But still, what I liked Gregory Peck. I think it's the perfect pick for Atticus, for the character of Atticus. I liked all the children, I mean Scout, Jem and Dill. I think the actors, also the children actors, were really nicely picked, nicely chosen. Especially Scout. I think I almost imagined her as if she was in this movie. Of course, at some points it was a little bit cringy, but I think with the children actors, it's almost always like that. I think it was very difficult for me to watch because the movie is very old, and at those times they just made movies like that. And these days movies are made very differently, and that's why it's kind of difficult for me to watch movies that are older than, for example, than in the 80s, somewhere in the 80s. If to talk about how close the actions in the movie was to the book, frankly speaking, if I was to watch this movie without reading the book first, I wouldn't understand many things. Many things were not chaotic, but not really understandable why it is happening and who are those characters. So, for example, there was no presentation of how California took the children to the church of colored people, but then we are shown the trial, and the children meet Reverend Sykes, and they're like, oh, hello, you're here too, but previously we were not like introduced to this character at all. So it was very strange. And a lot of very important events from the book, for example, when Miss Modi's house was burned down, it was not shown there. So we also don't see, for example, how Boo covers Scout with a blanket or something like that. And on the whole, we are only focused in the movie on Atticus and the three children. Other important characters, like there wasn't shown a teacher even, not a single time. Miss Modi is present, but she appears maybe like twice on the screen. Mrs. DeBose is shown also once, and like the children were passing her, saying something like that she is to be afraid of because she has a gun, but then Atticus comes and like says some compliments to her flowers, and that's it. There wasn't the situation when Jem destroys her flowers and something like that. So many events from the book are not present in the movie. I understand that it's a common thing when many events from the book are not present in many movies. But still, I think the book is not too long, and they could shoot it in a different way. And for me, the book is a must to read for everyone, but the film I wouldn't really recommend. I don't know if it's possible to make a movie that is going to be as good as this book, but maybe someone is going to try at some point, because the book is really good. And also, one idea that I would like to mention is that I wish there were more fathers and more people like Atticus in our world.
Yes, it's a nice thought. Speaking about the movie, I know that Harper Lee liked this movie really much. She said that it was like a perfect movie based on her own book. And yeah, I don't know, maybe she wouldn't like to have another film just because she liked it so much. But I didn't watch it. I tried to do it yesterday, but it was really difficult for me because, as you said, it is an old movie, and for me, sometimes it's okay, but sometimes I just can't. I don't know. My attention is not here. Like I can't concentrate. I can't focus on what is going on the screen. And it's just because the film is old and they used some different ways of shooting. The process was different, the image now is different, and I can't explain why, but yes, so sometimes it's really difficult for me. But sometimes it's okay. Yeah, and I watched about 10 minutes, so I saw Atticus, 3 children, and even Miss Modi, as you mentioned. And that's all. So nothing really happened in 10 minutes. So we were just introduced to the characters. So I don't know. Maybe I would like to watch it one day, but maybe it's not going to happen, especially after your review.
I'm sorry. No, it's just the way I felt.
Yes, I understand that we all are different. And so for some people, maybe it will be the best movie because they like this style, they like old movies and so on. But yeah, for me, it's also very difficult.
Yeah. Okay, so and
yes, I'm going to talk a little bit about the second book, and this is Go Set a Watchman.
Yes.
And I was not successful again one more time because I didn't finish it. I finished just 2 or 3 parts of the book, and actually it's 1/3 of the book. So it is about 300 pages, so I read about 100 pages. And there is a reason. Yes, because for me it's easy to read a book, especially that long. But it was such a disappointment. First of all, I thought that it would be a story, as I told in our first video, I think it would be the same story, but from a young woman, and that there would be just some flashbacks to her past and just some description of situations, maybe her thoughts on them. But in reality, it's just like another story. So the first 100 pages is just about a scout's life now, and I was so amazed by her character in this book in To Kill the Mockingbird, that she is so young, but she is so mature at the same time. Like, she has so deep thoughts because of her wonderful father and the way he tries to treat his children. But here she is 26 years old, and I can't even explain what are her thoughts on different things. Like, it's just the description of her life. So she is in New York now. She lives in New York. Her father lives in Macomb, the same city. He is ill. He has an arthritis. He needs some help. But she doesn't want to come to him, to move to his house, not because she doesn't want to help him. No, it's okay. But she says that I would do it if he said me that he needs my help. But he says that, no, I don't need anything. I'm okay now, so you don't need to move. And he lives with his sister, Aunt Alexandra, and Alexandra is absolutely the same as she is in To Kill a Mockingbird, because she doesn't like Scout, like her behavior. She doesn't like a lot of aspects, a lot of words that she says. Well, she always blames her for some situations and for the fact that she doesn't want to come to her father. Atticus is quite relaxed about everything as usual. Yes. So he's 70 something, 72 or something like that in this book. I'm getting to the worst moments.
Okay.
I told you that when I started reading the book, there was a boy, there was a man, Henry.
Yeah.
And I thought that it was the same character as Dill.
Okay, yes, I
Because,
remember.
yes, according to the plot, so it was her friend, it was her brother's friend, and they spent a lot of time together in childhood, and that's why I thought maybe it's the same character, but just the name is different.
Okay.
But it's another character. I found out, so maybe 60 or 70 pages after the beginning of the book, that yes, it's a different man. And now she's with him and she wants to marry him. Well, I think she likes him, but it's not really clear what she thinks. Because she's strange in this book. And she likes him, but her family, well, probably and Alexandra, is against this marriage just because she thinks that it's not the best man for her, because her family is so noble and nice and he is just a random guy.
Doesn't fit.
Yes. Also, they remember Dill.
Okay.
Yes. So,
where is he?
So we find out that Dill is another man, and now he's somewhere in Europe. That he participated, he took part in a war, as far as I've understood. And yes, after that, he moved to Italy or some other country in Europe. And now he lives there, and they do not know what he is doing there. And Jim is dead. I don't know what happened because it's not written in the first 100 pages, but yes, they say that he dead, and they were like really good friends with Dill in childhood, and that they didn't even let him know that Jim was dead. They just So someone just sent a message to him, but Scout said that it was not her.
Whoa.
I don't know what happened really.
Such a mess.
Yes, and like I found out that Jim was dead maybe 20 pages after the beginning, and it was such a disappointment for me. Well, I know that
it's a shock.
Yes, that different things happened. It was a shock. I don't know.
So what are your plans? Do you plan to read this book till the end?
I really don't know, because it's difficult to read, and there are some flashbacks and there are maybe some scenes that were in To Kill a Mockingbird, but I can't say that there are too many of them, just a couple of them. I don't know, it's just like another book and not a very good one, I'm sorry to say, because I love To Kill a Mockingbird so much that really I wanted to read the second book, and I really thought that it would be something nice and maybe some other nice words, nice phrases and nice opinions will be found here, but no. I want to read because I want to find out what happened with Jim, what happened with Dill. So why, like, I was sure that they would get married just because they were so close in childhood. I understand that it's life and a lot of things can happen, and it's not like 100%, but it just ended that way. So in my mind it was like a different story, absolutely different story, not like in this book. So yeah,
it's very sad to hear about Jim. I mean, I haven't expected it at all, and of course I agree that it's life and many things happen and people change a lot with the years. It's sad that we like, for example, Scout so much, but now you are telling that it seems that it's completely another person. What could happen to her that she changed so much? Maybe again we should remember about how society pressures people a lot and that people had to adapt to such situations, that they change so much and maybe they lose their ingenuity. Yeah, and it's sad. If you are going to read it till the end, please share your thoughts with us
Okay,
too.
yes.
Later.
But, yeah, usually when I like a book and I want to know the ending, I read it quite quickly. But here,
Not this time.
no, because I started reading it in December and I still haven't read half of it. So for me, it's something
Unusual.
Yes, very unusual, and I do not know. I really want to know the ending, but it's so difficult. And just because I think because of my disappointment at the first
course.
place, because the style of the book is not that difficult. Like it's okay. It's just a regular book. But yes, so first of all, Jim's death,
Yeah.
and the second, and maybe the most prominent, so to say, disappointment to me is Scout, that I do not see the same girl in her, and it is very surprising that, as we remember, it's the first draft of the story,
Yes.
and like this story turned into this one. And now I'm thinking, who is responsible for that? Who is responsible that we have such a masterpiece?
Yes.
So, I mean, so how many people contributed to this work?
Okay, guys, thanks a lot for watching this episode. We are finally at the end of this journey with To Kill a Mockingbird. Of course, we really recommend reading it both in Russian, in English, or in some other language if you would like to. And soon we're going to start a new book. Please look forward to that. All the contacts in the description below. We are always glad to find out what you think about the book and your ideas. So, thanks for watching and live long.
And be there for the people you love.
Bye bye.
Bye-bye.
Do you or but
Что? From its origin, which way was? Что за скороговорка?
if these things shushed up, shushed, ну типа замалчивать. Its pronunciation is like of a kind of pronounce.
What do
Okay.
you mean?
Ken ought to be there with the hearse by now. Dr. Knight. Еще раз.
For Auntie again ruled that roost.
Давай еще раз.
For aunt.
Материал для
Такие
блуперов.
сложные.
I have some kind of like an abstract maybe to discuss, but no, I don't want to discuss it. Я помню свою мысль. There was and live long. Подожди еще разок.